Welcome to Ecstasy Crafts, and this is my quick card collection from Bees and Butterflies, and this is the coordinating class that goes with the card box keeper if you guys took that class. If not, just enjoy using the quick card collection from Paper Rose. You can make some really fabulous cards with this and a lot of different cards. So today we're going to make 10 cards from this one package. These will be A6 cards. And before we get started, I'm going to tell you what you need. You will need a paper trimmer. You're going to need a scoreboard. And what else you need? Glue. You'll need a ruler, pair of scissors, foam tabs, and I think that's about it. Everything else is in your package, and you've got your card bases that came in your kit. So what we're going to get you started with right away, I'm going to move this off to the side now, and I have some measurements here. I'm going to hold them up. Okay, so I want you to write these down because, let's see if I can get that so it focuses in on that. There we go. No, it's not going to work very well, but anyway. So what these measurements are, these are the measurements that you're going to be cutting your base pieces of paper with for your designer paper. So I'll show you what I mean. So in this particular card, you can see that there is your excuse me. You have your base paper and then your top paper on here. So first layer is your base layer, and your second layer is the layer that you're going to see your designer paper. Okay, so first layer is going to be 4 inches by 5 11/16. Your second layer is 3 7/8 by 5 9/16. So I want you to write that down so that I don't have to continue to say that throughout the whole video. I'm going to just put my measurements in front of me. Keep them handy for yourself so that you know what you're getting into. And then what I'm going to do is what I've done with mine is I have opened up my whole package, and I have gone through and I have put for each card, so pull out your 10 envelopes, and then for each card I have created an envelope filled with what I need. So first card we're going to do is You Are the Sunshine of My Life. So what you need out of your package is you need this paper here with the bee banner on it. You also will need the wood grain, and you will also need the honeycomb paper. So you're going to use all 3 of these papers, and when we are creating these cards, what I want you to do is I want you to create a discard pile. And I want you to just keep it handy because we're going to pull from that occasionally for some of these other cards. Because if you cut it a certain way, you are going to be able to use the other half of that paper on other cards. So in addition to those papers, you are going to need these 3 from your ephemera package. So you want the circular, I call this a meadow scene. You want the sentiment, You Are the Sunshine of My Life. There's a couple of small bees, just you can see the size of it according to my finger. A lot of them are really big. Just look for one of the small bees. It doesn't, if you don't get this one, that's okay. I think there's this one and one other one, and we're using the other one anyway on another one, so if you mix them up, don't worry about it. But you definitely need those 3 So you're going to tuck those, excuse me, sorry, I have a dry throat this morning. Okay, so you definitely need those, and then you need these 3 papers. Okay, and then what we're going to do, I'm going to walk you through each one of these and prepare these. So there is your first card. Now, because I have it finished, I'm tucking them in here. All right, so put that off to the side, flip it upside down like this. So as you build your pile, then each card, we're going to both be starting at the top with that one. So your next card is this one here. And you can see we have the first layer in here and a second layer. So now the wood grain is going to come from this paper pad here, because, or from this card here, because we're going to have leftovers of the wood grain. So that's why that's going to be our first one, because you're going to put that wood grain over into this card. So you're going to need this and the leftover piece of wood grain from the other one. This will make sense when we start, okay? And then you're going to need a medium-sized butterfly, and I chose Congrats. You can, if you want, leave your sentiments till the very end and flip through and use the sentiments that you want on each one of those cards. That's totally up to you. So that will be card number 2. So flip that upside down, put it on top of the first card you did. Here is card number 3. So it's going to be, oh, and there's that other B that I was talking about. All right. So, oh, it's upside down. Sorry, guys. So what we're going to need is this yellow striped paper. And then you're going to need this one because we're going to use this piece here. And you're going to look for the nice floral round. I chose Sending Lots of Hugs and the other small bee. So we're going to put that into our envelope. So that's card number 3. Flip it upside down on top of your other one. Card number 4. So this one here has a yellow stripe for the first layer. We're going to get that from the previous card. Oh, wait a minute, sorry. Or we can use it from this one. This one will make 2 cards. No, it won't, because of the way the layout is. So yes, we're going to draw it from the previous card. So you need the paper with the butterfly banner across the bottom, the piece of yellow stripe from the previous card, a medium-sized butterfly again, a tiny butterfly, and a sentiment. Upside down on your pile. So this is our 5th card. All right, so we've got this lovely meadow scene with a background. So we've got our first layer, and that's going to be the back side of this. And our second layer is going to be the front side. So this one piece is going to make this whole card. And then we should have a little leftover strip that you're going to trim off, and that's going to be this part here. I've just got, I thought it needed a little butterfly flying through the meadow, and I chose a Thinking of You sentiment for this one. So card number 5, upside down on top of your pile. Card number 6. Oh, there they are. I was looking for my ephemera. So the meadow scene again. Now this time though, we're going to use this background here for this one. So this is our first layer, this is our second layer, but this time we're going to use the banner strip here with just a little bit on the sides. And then a medium-sized butterfly again, and I chose Feel Better Soon for this one. That was card number 6, upside down on top of your pile. Card number 7 is going to be this one here. So we're going to be using this paper. It's going to go this way on this card. And you can see I've incorporated part of that. We're going to use a strip of the beehive, the honeycomb pattern off the back to run a banner down there. This time we're using a large butterfly, and I chose Thanks So Very Much for this one. So again, one piece for this card. I think that was card number 7, upside down on your pile. Card number 8. All right. So this one here. And what we're going to use for this one is we're going to use this part here and a strip cut off of this one. Now, when we get to this card, we may have some pieces in our discard pile, and we may not have to cut into these full pieces, but we'll see when we get there. Now, we've already got honeycomb left over from the previous card, so we'll be using a piece of that. And I chose the large bee round and the Be Kind for this one. So into your envelope. Upside down on top of your pile. All right, and the last 2 cards are this one is an easel card. Goes like this. All right, so we are going to be using the wood grain pattern, and from the previous paper, some of the honeycomb, or the jars of honey banner. We're going to use this really cute bee circle. I chose Hello Sunshine. And then you're going to dig out one of the very large bees, because this is going to be what holds your easel up. So we're going to foam tab him up inside, and then we're going to put some honeycomb inside just to dress it up a little bit when it's standing up. So there's card number 9, and the last card, card number 10 that we're going to make. So this one has a flip out. So you can see like this. So I've cut half the front of the card off, and we're going to use it to make our flip out, and then just with some careful placing, that will just hold that into place so it doesn't flop around. So for this particular one, we're going to use some leftover wood grain paper. Leftover wood grain. We're going to do another meadow round. Another medium butterfly. A small butterfly. And for this one, for a sentiment, I chose Thanks So Very Much again. And of course, the meadow seam paper, but as you can see, we're just going to use this banner strip on it. So I found organizing these this way made these cards really quick and easy to do. So there's my card number 10 upside down on top of my pile, and I'm saying upside down because now we're going to flip it this way, and we are going to start creating these cards. So our very first card that we're going to create is this card right here. You are you are the sunshine of my life. So I'm going to leave that one right there. Okay, and I'm going to pull these papers out. Now my envelope is empty, and put that off to the side. I'm going to bring in my little paper trimmer. And I know it's going to be helpful for you guys to see how I'm trimming this paper. So what I want to do is I want to cut this banner off because I'm going to use the B banner on the front of the card, but I want to keep these yellow strips. So when you're trimming it, you want to trim it and keep the strip. Hang on to that because you might use that later. I'm going to cut it completely off. So there we have the banner strip. I'm going to hang on to that. That's my discard pile. Okay, so now I need to trim this to size. So the measurement of this is going to be 5 11/16 because that's going to, there's only one layer to this card, and that is going to line up with the wood grain 5 11/16. So 11/16 is one below. If your ruler has 1/16 inches on it, your trimmer, that's one below 5 3/4. And now that will fit. So there we've got our first piece done. Now, I don't want to mix up my discard pile with my regular one. Now what I want to do, this is a landscape card, so I want my wood grain to run with the landscape. So I'm going to cut this because this measurement is going to be 4 inches by 5 11/16. So I want to cut my piece 4 inches with the wood grain running this way and the 4 inches across this way. So there's my 4 inches. This is my discard. This is my keeper. Now I need to cut this with the wood grain running this way, and I want it 5 11/16. So just like that. So that's my base. And now I want to cut this piece of the beehive, the honeycomb, sorry. And I believe it's 2 inches wide. Yes, so it's going to be 2 inches wide by 4 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my paper in this way, so the length is going this way, and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut it 2 inches. Just thinking about where I'm cutting it. So 2 inches, and then I'll be able to get my 4 inches the other way. And that will keep the majority of that good. Because we are going to make a card out of this. Because remember I said your discard pile, we may find some pieces in there that we're going to use, that we can use, and not cut into other full pieces, which will leave that for you to use for other cards. So now I have a piece that's 2 inches wide. Now I want to cut it to 4 inches because it's going to run vertically. It's going to run, and the vertical measurement of this card is 4 inches. So there I've got my 2 by 4 inch piece. Now I have all my pieces cut for this card. I grab my card base. And the first thing I'm going to do, and double check, make sure my measurements were accurate. Yeah. I am going to glue my first layer on. There we go. And then I'm going to put this one over here. Now, one of the things you want to sort of keep an eye on is if you want this to center over this, you got to make sure that you don't put it too close to this edge, otherwise it's going to be sitting off center. So that's going to give me plenty of room. This one gets glued down flat. I don't use a lot of dimensional foam tabs on these cards because I want them to fit into the card box from last month's class. If you did not do the card box in last month's class and you go right ahead and you add as much dimension as you would normally like to add to your cards. Now this one here is going to go across, and I am going to foam tab this down or up, whichever way you want to talk about it. All right. Now you can center it right in the middle of the card if you want. You can put it wherever you want. Just keep an eye, make sure that you can get your circle wherever that it's not too high, because you don't want these hanging off your card. Now this is going to be glued down again because I don't want too much height on my cards because I want them to fit all 10 cards into the box. Now I am going to, this is going to hang off here, so I'm going to put a foam tab here. And then I'll glue the rest of it down. I'm going to glue my little bee on up here. And there's card number 1 done. All right. So card number 2. So this one does have 2 layers. So we're talking about the wood grain, and you're going to go into your discard pile from your first card and you're going to pull this out. Now we're going to trim this down to size. So this will be your first layer. So observe your measurements. And then this piece, we're going to cut our second layer. I liked the little butterflies in here. You can cut from either side, whichever you want the front of your card to be. I'm going to stick with my design and I'm going to go with these butterflies here, but you can cut from this side. The measurements are going to be exactly the same. So let's start with our trimmer, and my first layer measurement again is 4 inches. So I want it to be 4 inches across this way. That, and then 5 11/16 this way, because it's going to go on our base like this. And then for this one here, I have to flip it upside down because I want my 4 inches. No, this is not 4 inches. This is my second layer, and this is going to be 3 7/8. and we want it this way. That's why I had to turn it upside down. This is my discard, okay? Now I'm going to turn it around, and I am going to trim this off because I want it 5 11/16. I want to keep, for me, I want to keep the bottom. Some of you may want to trim it there and keep the top. That's a preference. So there we go. Got both layers cut now. Portrait layout this time. So our first layer is the wood grain, and I'm going to glue that down. My card base is a little crooked. Could be me. Maybe I'm crooked. There we go. All right. And I'm going to lay my second layer down. This was the card that I said you can get the whole thing out of one sheet. We could have just cut that. It works, but we still need another wood grain for another card. And see that? I cut it wrong. It should have been 9/16. Well, nine sixteenths, which is 1 above a half. There we go. I just got to wipe the blade of my trimmer off because it's got glue on it now. Because you know what? We all make mistakes. All right. Cleaned up. There we go. Now we're going to put our butterfly and our sentiment on there. I do foam tab these. And then placement. So there is card number 2. All right, now card number 3. Pull everything out of your envelope. So this one has just one layer. It is a landscape card. So we are going to be cutting our paper this way. And then we're going to cut this out as well. So what we want for this, because it's the first layer, I want my paper in. I'm just going to move that off to the side a little bit more. So I am going to cut 4 inches. This is my first layer measurements. This is my discard. Keep it for later. And then this is going to be 5 11/16. Because again, it's my first layer dimension. And then we want to trim this out. So just like we did on the bee pattern on the first card, we want to keep the green border on it. hang on to that. You might use that. And we're going to trim that off so we end up with a big strip like this. There is a card later on where we can utilize this piece and use that for that card. So this is why I'm telling you to create a discard pile. Now, this needs to be cut to the same length as this one, which was 5 11/16. It's a discard, but that would be nice for maybe a sentiment to be mounted on that. So there we go. We've got our pieces all cut. Now we can mount on our card. Again, this is a landscape card. So I'm going to glue down my yellow stripe paper. And now we're gonna, oh, wait a minute, nope. I'm gonna foam tab this one up. So where we decide to put this, just keep in mind again where that your circle die cut is going to fit comfortably on the card. I tend to like things to be a little off center. Occasionally I do put things into the center of the card. Now we're going to glue that into place. I'm just going to apply a bit of glue in the center of that. And take my little bee and glue him in. And then I'm going to foam tab that sentiment because it's going down on the base piece. You can always go back when we're done because you're going to have a lot of leftover embossed die cuts from the package. You can make more cards, or you can add more of these to dress your cards up. You can add gems and bows as well. But there's card number 3 completed. Now, card number 4. Another landscape. This one has 2 layers. So the first layer is going to be the yellow stripe, and the second layer is going to be the print. And then we have 2 butterflies and a sentiment. So the yellow stripe, we're going to come into our discard pile and use that, and this piece here. So the yellow stripe is our first layer. So I need to trim that down. I want it in my trimmer this way, and I'm going to trim it to 4 inches. And then we're going to rotate it around. And because it's our first layer, we want it 5 11/16. And then we want to take this one here, and I'm going to trim this piece off. You can see I've trimmed it off, and I want to keep the yellow strip on it. So I'm going to trim this off. So you end up with this. And this is our second layer. Keep the stripe. This is our second layer. Now you can choose which side you want. Do you want that on your card front, more of that, because it's going to go this way, it's a landscape, or do you want more of this? Now, I chose to go this way because we're going to lose a lot of this other butterfly. But to cut it that way, we need to turn it upside down because we need to cut this 5 9/16. 8 and 9. 9/16 is 1/16 above 5.5. Hang on to that. You might use that somewhere else. And then we're going to rotate it this way. So the butterfly banner strip is that way. And then we need to cut this down to 3 7/8. And yes, you take the top piece off your butterfly, but that's okay. All right, so that's it for trimming. Again, hang on to that. Grab a card base, landscape this way. I'm going to glue the yellow down. And before I put glue on it, I'm going to make sure I cut it right this time, and I did. So now I'm going to glue this piece down. And then I'm going to foam tab my embossed die cuts on. I'm going to start with my happy birthday. I want it to sit on the banner there. And then I'll do my butterfly placements. I think I can get one on there. All right. I'm going to put my big one on first. I kind of want it to sit in between these two flowers so we can see the majority of those flowers. And then I'll put the little one on. I think I want him to look like he's hopping on that flower there. All right, so there is card number 4. All right, so card number 5. I think this is one of my favorites, actually. Just reminds me of a beautiful flower meadow. So this one, we are going to utilize this entire piece of paper for the whole card. This is a portrait style card. I've got one little butterfly and a thinking of you sentiment. So, get my card base out here. Again, it's a portrait. So what I want to utilize this part here. So what I'm going to trim off, I'm going to turn it upside down, and I want this because this is going to be, sorry, I'm doing this in reverse. This is going to be the second layer. So this needs to be 3 7/8. And then I'm going to trim off the top because I want to keep as much as the print as possible. 5 9/16, which is 1/16 above 5 1/2. So there's my second layer. And then if we take the leftover and flip it, that's going to be our first layer. So we want to cut this to 4 inches by 4 inches by 5 11/16. So up here, there we go. There is the piece that I said you'll be able to use. Actually, you know what? The piece you cut off, this one is perfect because it's already trimmed. You cut this off the top, so hang on to that piece because we're going to use that to go under our banner. So this is our first layer. I'm going to glue this on. And then our second layer. Like that. Now I'm going to put some foam on this because I want it. I could put 2 on here, but I'm just going to use 1 today. It appears that I don't have any scissors in here, so when all else fails, I'm very gently going to use a craft knife to trim that off. So I'm going to place this across the bottom of the flowers, and it was already cut to the same size. So just like that. Every time I set it down, it looks crooked. Looks all right there though. Put that on, and then I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the middle of this, and I'm going to center that on there. Like I said, I don't usually center things, but sometimes it's fitting, and this is one of those. Just slide that over a little bit. And then my one little butterfly, because Wet Meadow doesn't have butterflies flitting around. I'm going to foam tab that up. And there is card number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's card number 5. Card number 6. All right, we've got a medium-sized butterfly, a sentiment. See, I've used a scrap piece in here. I'm probably not going to find the same scrap, but I'm going to use some scrap to pop that up. We're going to use this and this. So let's cut our first layer first, which is going to be the green paper. And this is a portrait. So we're going to cut. Now this doesn't, what's on the back side of this? No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you're not going to see enough of it to worry about. So where you cut doesn't matter. Discard. So 4 and then 5 and 11/16. That's our first layer. Second layer. This one does matter, okay? Because you can see we're going to utilize this, but we want a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So what we're going to do, now you can see there's more over here than here. I'm going to actually just trim a little bit off. I'm just going to guess, and I'm going to take probably about 1/8 of an inch, just this much, off that one side. And we can get rid of that. And then I'm going to put it back this way, and I'm going to cut this 3 7/8. And that looks a little more balanced than that one does. Much more balanced. I like that one better. All right. There's another card for you, or a backing. Put that in your discard pile. Again, this is a portrait style. I'm going to glue my base on. Oh, and you know what I forgot to tell you to do? We need to trim this down. We've got the width cut. And did I cut it to the right width? 3 7/8. I did, look at that. But we haven't cut it to the height, which needs to be 5 9/16. I'm choosing to take it off the top because I want to keep this pretty end piece on the sides. So 5 9/16, which is 1/16 above 5 1/2. There we go. Perfect. So I'm going to glue this one down. And don't stress about the green floral underneath, whether you've got it right side up or not, because as you can see, you're not going to see enough. You're never going to know if it's on the right side up or down, as far as which way the flowers are going on the pattern. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to cut this little piece here. Oh, look, I think that's probably that piece that I told you to keep that we would use. And that's exactly what that is. So I am just going to cut a piece that fits in between these two. I might even actually, do I like that? No, that's too busy, in my opinion. I could do the green. That's still too busy, I think. I think I chose this plain one for a reason. So the dimension on this, because I want to just keep it in between those yellow lines. So it is 1 15/16. So it's 1/16 less than 2 inches. Trim that off. Can't cut it when I don't have that down, can I? Like that. There we go. All right, now I'm going to put this up on foam tabs, and I'm going to find a spot to put that. That in here. I'm going to glue my sentiment down. I'm going to put my butterfly on. Now what I did with my butterfly, I wanted him part way on this and part way off. So I'm going to put some foam on his wings. Go with some small ones here. And then some down here too. Put a little bit of glue right there. And there he goes. Card number 6 is finished. All right, card number 7. So this one here. Now I had to pull this paper. I think if you go through your discard papers, we're going to find this piece. So I'm going to put this one off to the side. If we don't have to cut into that, I don't want to. I want to save that for another card. So this is actually going to work for card number 7. Got a large butterfly and a sentiment. So what I want to do, I want to trim off. I'm going to put this in this way. I want to keep this yellow band right across here. So just like that, and then I'm going to turn it around this way. And I am going to cut this to 4 inches. So just like that. And then I'm going to put it in this way. And I am going to cut that to 5 11/16. I think I'm going to cut it off this side though. So I'm going to trim it up here because that'll keep this flower whole. 5 11/16. And that's going to fit on the card front. Sorry that I moved way. Sweet. And that is going to be a landscape. And it's just one layer like that. Now, what we want is this. So the leftover piece that you cut off has the honeycomb on the back. And we are going to trim that to 4 inches because it's going to run this way down the card. So I'm going to trim that to 4 inches. And whatever that width is, it's just the way it was cut. And mine is 1 3/16 inches. It does not have to be that. Just take whatever it is that you have there and trim it down to 4 inches. It should be relatively close to what I have because it was a discard piece. I'm going to glue this down. Make sure I've got my card base the right way. The yellow strip goes to the top and the flower at the bottom. And then I'm going to glue this down. Now if you wanted, you could foam tab this up and glue the butterfly and the sentiment. Either way works. Actually, let's try that. Let's see how much of a difference that makes in the card. Maybe we'll like it better that way. See how I manipulate my strips to go around. I'm going to start up here because if I have a little gap, I'm okay with that. There we go. So all I'm doing different from the original card is instead of gluing the honeycomb down, I am foam tabbing it up, and I will glue my butterfly and my sentiment down instead of foam tabbing them. So I still have the same height added to my card. I just did it a little bit differently. I added the height to this layer instead of this layer. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to just glue this down, making sure my butterfly stays within the confines of my card. Actually, I think I like it better this way. Foam tab that. If I wasn't putting it in the box, I would foam tab these as well. I would have a double layer of foam tabs, but it's going in the box. And then I'm going to glue that down. Just like that, so you can see the difference. So this one, you probably can't see it as well on camera, but I foam tabbed the honeycomb and glued these, and in my original card I glued the honeycomb and foam tabbed these. So that is card number, what are we at? Card number 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, that was card number 7. Card number 8. All right. So we've got this Be Kind. So we're using a couple of different papers in here. We've got the nice big bee circle. I'm just going to take, there's some extra where I tore it out of the die cut there. And then the Be Kind sentiment. Okay, just needed a drink. All right, this is a portrait style card. Now, these were the papers that I told you to put in your envelope, but I know that we had some leftover strips. Is this one the right size? No, that's too short, but we did have a full strip, so we're going to use that. And so now we don't need to cut this, so I'm going to put this off to the side. And also, when we used this one, I told you to hang on to that because we were going to use it. We're going to use it in this card. And it's going to go right here. So what we're going to do, so we can take this one, and we're not going to use that, so we're going to put that off to the side. I'm going to take my card base, and again, it is a portrait. So, and this is all, we're going to piece the front. So what I want to do is cut this stripe first, and it's going to be the width of this. I'm not even going to trim it this way. We've got 2 stripes on it. I am just going to trim it to the length we need here, which is 5 11/16. So we're going to put that in like that. I'm just flipping it around because this corner is damaged a little bit. So 5 11/16. So just like this, and that's going to go here. And what I'm going to do now, you can You could put this way, or you could put it this way. I want to keep as much of this floral as possible, so I am going to cut it this way. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut it 5 11/16 across here. I'm going to put it in my trimmer like this, and I'm going to cut it this way, 5 11/16, discard. And then we're going to have to trim this down. But the first thing I want to do is I want to glue this into place. And the measurement on this is 1 1/16. But I'm going to glue it into place. I'm only giving you that measurement in case anyone out there wants to know. So I am going to take this and I'm going to glue that along the score of your card base. So just like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure over. So I have 3 inches left. So I know when I cut across here for a full piece, it needs to be 4 inches. Okay, and I know I have 3 inches left. So what I want to do, but 3 inches takes me right to the very edge. So what I want to do is lay it in place, measure across, and I'm going to do it at 2 15/16. And I want to cut this. This is going to be the excess. So it's going to go in my trimmer this way, 2 15/16. And I may lay this on and decide I want a little bit extra. Before I move it, let's have a look, see here. Nope, that's perfect. Move my trimmer. Now I'm going to glue this one in place. And line it up. There we have the face of the card. And now I'm going to look through my scraps. So I have this one. What else do I have here? That's probably the one I'm going to use. Yep. That's what I'm going to use. And I know that needs to be 4 inches. And it is the same width. So this one is 1 1/8 of an inch, approximately. But it is a discard piece off one of the previous cards. And when I did this, I did very little excess trimming. I worked with what I had left over. So I do know it needs to be 4 inches because that is the width of my first layer, and we only have a first layer in here. And I have foam tabbed that, so I'm going to add those. Fighting me. There we go. That one's not as difficult. just eyeballing it. It's below center. And I'm going to glue my bee on here. Now I opted not to foam tab my Be Kind up, and that was probably sheer laziness because it would have required cutting a whole lot of foam tabs. I also want to try and keep this simple and quick for you guys to show you how you can utilize these kits. There we go. That is card number 8. Now the next 2 cards are the first one we're going to do, card number 9, is the easel card. So we are going to be using the wood grain, and we need the, I don't know that I kept it out. No, I thought I might have had a piece left over. I'm just going through, and I do not. So what we're going to need to do is go back into our package and pull out the piece of paper that has the honey jars on it. Let me find that. So it was that one there. All right. So we need this paper and the wood grain paper. And then what we're going to do, the wood grain is going to run this way. So what I want to do is I'm going to cut this, what am I going to do here? Hang on, I got to think about this for a second. Let's score our base and get that out of the way. So, I'm going to bring in this scoreboard. This. So to score this, what you want to do is we're just going to have your card in a landscape form, and we're just going to score it at the halfway mark across here. So this is 4 1/8 of an inch. So we want to score it at 2 1/16. So 2 1/16. So just like that. So that's the way your base is going to look after you've scored it. So just like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut 2 pieces off of here, and each one is going to be, where do we want this? We want this to be 1 15/16. So we need 2 pieces at 1 15/16. So you're going to put your paper in this way into your trimmer. And line that up at 1 15/16. I have a hard time reading this because this safety guard gets in my way there. And I need 2 pieces that size. Just like that. So hang on to that, put it on your discard pile. All right, and then I'm going to cut both of these at the same time. I need these to be 5 11/16, which is 1/16 below 5 3/4. So while we have our trimmer out too, we're going to cut this out of this piece. And again, we want to keep the yellow trim on it. And we need a piece of honeycomb here, and it is 1 1/4 inches in width. You know what? We're going to use this piece that we just trimmed off, because we're going to use this side of it. It's a little narrower, but that's okay. We're going to trim this down because it needs to be the length of the card. We're going to trim that down to 5 11/16. So just like this. And that's going to fit inside here. I'll put that off to the side. We can get rid of the trimmer now. We're done with that. Oh, no, we're not. Nope, sorry. We forgot to trim. I forgot to tell you to trim this. This needs to be trimmed to 4 inches. Now, I got really picky, and I wanted my jars on the top to be full. So I trimmed that little piece off, and then I measured 4 inches down. I don't know why. Sometimes I do things like that. All right. So just like that, 4 inches. Now we can put our paper trimmer away. We've got all our paper cuts like this. Now what we're going to start with is we're going to put these in place and glue them into each one of these panels on the front. All right, put the card back like that. Get the second piece in. There we go, we've got those in place. Now I'm going to glue this one in place on the bottom of the inside of the card. Down here, sorry, I was off camera there. So just like that, I'm going to glue that right in there. Just like that. And then this one here. So to make it so that your card will stand up, you only want to glue it on this bottom piece. You want this piece loose. Okay. You want to also make sure that you're over far enough from the, from the left-hand side that your B is not going to be off your card. Just going to trim this little piece of excess off there. All right, so I am just going to, I want to glue just below there. Line it up with your paper, not the card base. Actually, I want it over a little bit more. And just make sure it's not gluing onto this part. So now you should have this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to foam tab this. Now I do want this to be halfway, so we're going to foam tab this onto the loose part and onto the bottom part. So I'm just going to put a couple of strips across here through the middle like that. So just like that. And then I'm going to put my Hello Sunshine here because I want it on the bottom part, because when you stand this up, then it'll be visible. Just lifting the tops off my foam instead of the foam itself. All right. Our Hello Sunshine. And then on the inside, so this I always tell people, how much do you want your card to stand up? Do you want it to be like that? Or do you want it to stand big and tall? I like to do it and leave enough space so maybe people don't want to see the writing inside when they have it on display. So I like to do it about halfway. So what we need to do is add some good sturdy foam tabs to this. Don't skimp on this because it's got to support it. You don't need to overload it either. But you want to have a significant amount in here. All right, the other thing that you need to think about too is, if you look at mine, my original one, I want the wing to support this. I don't want the tentacles to support it, because I mean, if you want to cut foam tabs and put them on here, you go right ahead. I am not doing it. So when your placement is crucial to make sure that those tentacles are not supporting the back of the card. So you want to angle it, but not so much because it needs to be inside the card, but you can see maybe that the tentacles aren't actually touching the back of the card. So there's card number 9, home stretch, last card, card number 10. Now this one, I just got a little bit creative with what I did with it. Just taking the extra bits of paper off here. All right, so we have the meadow circle, 2 butterflies, a medium and a small. And then we're going to use this paper, and you can see we need a little bit extra of the wood grain, which we're going to pull that. So have a peek through and see what you've got. You should have 2 nice sized pieces. All right, so we need piece that and this piece here. So this piece, all I'm cutting out is this, and I'm keeping the yellow. Now I'm also going to cut I'm going to measure halfway in the front of my card, just like we did for the score, but this time I'm going to cut it. I'm going to remove half of the front of my card. But don't discard that cut piece because we're going to need it. Oh, I can cut it on my other trimmer. Oh, I like this one. The other one I just used for scoring. So make sure you've got your card in correctly so you're cutting the front. And it's going to be, what was it? So it's going to be 2 and 1/16 we're cutting off. So just like that. And now you have this little piece left over. So just set them off to the side for now. And then what we're going to need is to trim this part out of here. So I'm going to start with this one. And so that's discard, that's keeper. Now what we do need to do with this is we need to cut this to 5 and 11/16. I'm actually going to take it off the bottom of this one this time. Sorry, I keep pulling this card away. All right, so that's going to be the inside piece there. Now we need to cut our wood grain piece, and it needs to be, I think it should be 1 7/8. Exact. No, wait a minute. Yes, 1 7/8. One 7/8. Now you can see I have a piece of the green plaid here. You can use whatever catches your fancy to put in there. Look and see. I did discard a piece. Could use this piece in here. All I'm doing is utilizing my leftovers. Actually, you know what? I'm going to use this piece. So I'm going to hang on to that. You can use whatever you want. You just want to use up those scraps. Instead of cutting into full pieces of paper, and this way, you are going to have a ton of paper left over to create more cards with. So we've got those 3 pieces. This is the discard piece from what we trimmed off our base card. Now, I'm just thinking here, what do I need? I'm going to need to cut this one. Oh, right, and I forgot, we need a piece back in behind here too. What do we have here? I'll find something in a second. Okay, so, but for this piece here, I was just checking to see what the measurement is on this. So I'm going to cut it 3 inches, and that is for, this is going to be 3 inches, and that's this little piece back in behind here. So I'm going to just trim this down to 3 inches. So now I've got that little piece there, trim that down, and then, so this is going to be 3 inches by 1 and actually 2 inches. I'm going to trim that to 2 inches. Or 1 and 15/16. So now I just have to decide what paper I'm going to use for this. So I'm going to go through all my discard and see what I have left here and what I want to cut to create it. So I don't, what have I got here? I don't have any, oh, wait a minute, what's this one? Oh, I could put that one inside there, why not? Instead of cutting into these nice big pieces that I have left over, I'm going to just take a piece that I can utilize, and there's no reason that won't look nice inside there. And I'm going to cut this one down. So I want to cut it to 3 inches by, what did I say? 1 and 15/16. Yeah, 1 and 15/16. Okay. So I want it 3 inches this way. And then I'm going to trim it down to 1 and 15/16 this way. All right, so just like that. Now, this piece here, I'm going to have to trim this down too. Okay, so this one, we need this. I like a 1/2 inch in underneath here when I'm doing any kind of hinge movement like this on my cardstock. You can do a 1/4 inch. I find it's hard to score, and then by the time it gets manipulating, there's not enough in under here to grab. So I prefer to do a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to start my measurement at a 1/2 inch here, and I'm going to come out, and I've got 3 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to bring this back in, 3 3/4. I'm going to trim this down to, we're going to get rid of that piece. We don't need that. And we're going to keep this. I thought maybe I had done it wrong, so I was going back there to measure again. Now I need to score this, and I need to score it at a 1/2 inch. Just like that. All right. Now normally, do I have a pencil in here? Doesn't matter. So what I like to do is I like to find my halfway point here. It's going to go this way. So I'm going to put a little mark halfway across here. on the little 1/2 inch score piece. And we know we want this here. So I am going to measure down. Now make sure, because if you put your mark way out here on the page, you're not going to see it. So make sure when you're putting your halfway mark that you're putting it back in here so you can see it. And this is going to be so 2.5 is 5 inches. That's going to take us to 5.5. And then I need 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 2.5. So I have a really weird way of measuring. I am not getting into. Just find your halfway mark. Make sure you line them up. And then make sure that you've got your little hinge is hanging off. So your score is, you don't want it tucked into and on top of your card base. You cannot see that. So let's see if I can manipulate this so you can see it. You want it, bear with me here for a minute. Let me glue it into place first. That's the very first thing you want to do. You want to glue this into place. And then once I don't have to try to hold both sides, I should be able to show you better. Don't worry about your pencil marks in here because they're going to be covered up by paper. Okay, so you want that to line up with the edge of the card, but not on the card. So see, you can just barely make out from the back of the card where that is, but that will allow that hinge to swing freely, and it's not going to impede on the card. Okay, so we're going to start with gluing this in. You're going to leave your little border edge, and we're going to glue that right in, right over top of your hinged area. So just like this. And then this is the little piece I cut for in here. It's going to sit like this. I think I may have cut that a little shy, but that's okay. It's on the inside. All right, and then this piece here is going to, I'm just going to eyeball it. It's going to go in the center. Don't worry that it's short here because that's going to get covered up. Just like that. So you should have it, it should look like this. Now we're going to put this one here. Oh, and I forgot to tell you to trim this. So we need to trim this to length, and that is going to be 5 11/16. And then we want the wood grain out. And that's going to go on the front of the card. So just like that. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to, and I glued this down, so I am going to figure out my placement on here. Because I don't want it to hang off the card. And then I think what I'm going to do is I am just going to center that a little bit on there. I'm just going to put just a little hint of a line, see right there, so I know I'm going to add glue all within this space, like that. There we go. Put that down. All right, so now we have that. Now I'm going to foam tab this big butterfly, or this butterfly here. It's big to this card. Add some foam tabs to that. Add some foam tab to this little one. I don't think my big ones are going to fit on there. I'm going to add this butterfly up here. Yep, over here. Like that. Now, what I did in my original card was I strategically placed this so it just catches the edge of this so it doesn't flop around, but not so much over it that you're going to damage the card trying to get it in place. So a couple of foam tabs on the back of this. And you want to put this in place while this is down so that you can just catch the edge of it. Like that. And then it just requires a little bit of movement to get that into place. And there you go. There's your 10 cards. I hope you really enjoyed this. I'm going to show you how we get all 10 cards into the bee box. So now I just have to divide them up. Because now I have 20 bee cards. All right. So put one set off to the side. So you want the flaps down so they don't catch the cards. 5 on each side. And then take 5 cards. Now on the one side they do go in upside down. I like to keep the scored edge out. And then the other 5 on this side. You can see, got 10 cards in there. You do have a little bit of playroom. You could probably, if you made 2 more cards, you could get a dozen in here. It's all about the foam tabs. So, and then they will slide out a little bit when you first close it, but that's okay because then you straighten it up. And then you have this beautiful box to keep some all occasion cards. And it looks nice. It looks like a little book. Fits on a bookshelf. There you go. I hope everybody enjoyed this. And I'd love to see some of the creations if you go ahead and make more cards and what your bee boxes look like. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next month.